There are a lot of ethical concerns with artificial intelligence that are totally nonsense, and there are a lot of really important ethical concerns with artificial intelligence that no one even knows about or is concerned with at all. And that is intentional. That is done on purpose. We are being distracted with fake stories that don't matter from real stories that do matter. Recently, I've been doing a bunch of media interviews on this and other related topics, and I'm about to do a big one. And for my own purposes, for your purposes, I want to kind of go over my thoughts before I go into that interview. What is AI ethics? What is AI? What is ethics? Artificial intelligence is the ability for us to build systems that can make decisions on their own without any other feedback or input from us. Ethics is the question of what ought one to do. What's the right way to do something? What's the wrong way to do something? How do we decide what we should do, what we shouldn't do? So as someone who recently completed a graduate program in AI ethics while I was doing product testing at OpenAI for 3 years, in addition to my MBA, in addition to my computer science degree, in addition to my bachelor's in urban planning, and many other, I have 11 degrees at this point. I want to talk about my thoughts and feelings about where we're at with AI ethics today, where we came from and where it's going, and what are the things that are being sold to us as distractions for what we should actually be worried about, and what are the things that just don't matter. When we talk about artificial intelligence, there are a huge number of issues that people are very concerned about from an ethical perspective of they're doing it wrong, they're doing it right. The two main issues everyone has today with artificial intelligence are a complete waste of everyone's time and attention, which is energy consumption and water consumption. If you look at global electricity consumption, all data centers in the world consume less than 2% of electricity, and AI is less than a fifth of that. All AI is less than a fifth of that. And remember, almost all AI has nothing to do with chatbots, nothing to do with generative AI or LLMs. If you consider in the US, it's less than 4% is all data centers, the vast majority of which is websites and software, other than chatbots, right? AI, again, is less than a fifth of that, just 4% of US electric consumption. The forecasts today are that by the end of the decade, total data center consumption in the world might reach 3% of electrical consumption in the world. And again, AI is forecast to be maybe a fifth of that at that point, right? So we're talking about less than 0.5% of electricity consumption in the world goes to all AI, almost all of which is not generative AI, is not chatbots, is not LLMs, it's ad networks, it's FYP planning, right? Like it's the procedural algorithms that decide what to show you in all of the feeds that you look at. That's the vast majority of AI energy consumption. It is just not true that this is what's driving energy prices. It is just nonsense. The total amount of energy that is being consumed by AI is as close to zero as possible. Most energy goes to transportation. Most of what's left goes to HVAC. Essentially nothing goes to AI. The prices are going up because these companies are greedy, because of price inflation, not because of AI. And blaming it on that is not something that upsets me, but it upsets me that we are being so easily distracted by the most dishonest people in our society telling us to worry about that, rather than the reality of what we should be concerned about. The real ethical issues in artificial intelligence today have nothing to do with the way that we produce and consume energy or water. They have instead to do with the fact that you have all these companies burning tens of billions of dollars a year to produce nothing of any unique value, nothing that is differentiated. OpenAI doesn't do anything that everyone else doesn't do. They didn't invent any of this. Google is the only company doing chatbots that is profitable, that has an independent future, that has a path to sustainability in that business. And even then, none of these companies are making money with chatbots. So the question you have to ask is, why are they doing it? And what do they get out of it? And what are the perspectives that are being embodied in the form of epistemic power, the power to construct the truth for people? What perspectives are embodied in the way that they are executing that power in society? If you look at a company like OpenAI that is burning tens of billions of dollars to accomplish nothing but having millions of conversations with people on a daily basis where it tells them what the truth is that they should believe, you have to ask yourself what perspective is being embodied in those conversations. Who are the people given the power to make decisions about what is the truth? How should we be representing the truth to people? That is a terrifying amount of power. The fact that the people who are being chosen to make those kinds of decisions about how truth will be represented to millions of people across the world are oftentimes the most horrible people you can imagine. These just utterly malignant, narcissistic psychopaths, many of whom are in the news today for being on the Epstein list. When you have people like Larry Summers being chosen to make those decisions, why did that happen? What kind of system chose Larry Summers to be the person making those decisions? What kind of system chose Sam Altman? Just Google either of their names with the word allegations, right? What kind of system placed the most horrible people in our society in charge of deciding how these tools will define truth, define reality for millions of people around the world? That's an ethical issue we should be concerned about. When we look at companies like Google taking this "do not be evil" out of the motto, and then she's listening. She's listening. And then, now that they're fine with doing evil, let's have conversations with millions of people on a daily basis. Let's embody the perspective that's going into writing the vast majority of content on the internet now. And all of these things people are doing, from their homework to their work assignments, are embodying this perspective that is being dictated by those decision makers who are choosing how to build the models. That's terrifying. Epistemic power is the biggest source of power that there is, the power to define reality for people. And it's being handed over to the worst people you can imagine. And so that's a real concern, a real ethical problem that we should be focused on and thinking about. At the same time, we also have questions like, where is all of the value that real AI does create, right? And this is the historical AI ethics perspective before chatbots, before generative AI. You have this long history of this whole universe of AI techniques that you've never heard of that does generate value, like market segmentation for marketing emails. The vast majority of the use cases for artificial intelligence today are manipulating people into buying things and discovering facts about people that they don't even know about themselves that can be leveraged to manipulate and control them. That's truly terrifying. That's a real ethical issue that we should all be concerned about. And AI energy consumption is a distraction to make you feel like you have a handle on the problem when really you understand it far less than you think you do. This is the topic of my graduate thesis. This is something we see replicated on every level with artificial intelligence throughout history, where people create these simplifying narratives, these simplifying metaphors that distract attention from the real fact, and instead present this meaningless facade for people to grapple with and latch onto and feel like, I understand, and here is my issue, when really they know far less than they think they do, and they have absolutely no awareness of the real issue. So now that we've established why it's important to have decent people making decisions in terms of how these models will be acting in the world, let's look at some of the really dangerous applications that people have never heard of beyond just manipulating you into buying things. When we talk about like medical diagnostic technology, when we talk about like insurance, when we talk about hiring, all of these fields have systems that are making decisions. Like, for example, if we have some expensive test that patients may need to take in order to survive, but the test is really expensive, how many false positives do we want to send people to take the test and cost money versus what monetary price do we put on saying no when we should have said yes and letting one through, and then someone dies, right? Like what is a person's life worth in exchange for how many false positives do we want to spend on an expensive test? Someone is making that decision. And the person making that decision should not be a psychopath. If you want to have a decent life in this world where we're interacting with these kinds of systems, and the same goes for hiring, and the same goes for whether you can even get insurance, the same goes for all sorts of things. And this is to say nothing of the things that Palantir is doing around the world in terms of picking targets for various, groups. And, you have this like 90% civilian casualty rate as a result of this new system that they built, right? Who is making these kinds of decisions? Because at the end, the evil is not being perpetrated. These harms are not being perpetrated by systems. These are just tools, and the tools are being set up in such a way that they will carry out, they will embody the perspective of the decision makers that are building it, that are making those kinds of decisions. These are the real ethical concerns that we should actually be focused on in terms of like, why do we have so many just complete psychopaths behind the wheel of building artificial intelligence systems? Because that's where the harm comes from. These could be pro-social systems. We could be building things that make the world a better place. We could be building things that put an end to the fact that 1 in 4 kids goes to bed hungry in the United States, even before we cut food stamps, before we cut SNAP, right? That doesn't have to be true. And the reason that it is because of the perspectives that are being empowered to make decisions around how these kinds of systems will be implemented, and therefore what outcomes we will see.